Yo, what up, guys? What up? What up? Man, I'm on way later than what I was trying to be on, expecting to be on. I got caught on a call with somebody from my team, and yeah, it took way longer. And I didn't really want to be streaming while I was talking, just because I couldn't really, obviously, record our conversation. Nothing bad, just work stuff, but and then also it was a long conversation too, so I don't want to be on mute either on the stream for a long ass time. So yeah, but nevertheless, man, again, I'm not gonna be on too long today. But like always, man, when you set goals, when you set certain plans on doing something, even it's like working out, man. The one thing I tell people, there are gonna be days that you're gonna be very motivated. It's gonna be no problem going to the gym, working out, right? Fine. There are gonna be other days you're not gonna feel motivated. And for those days, you gotta make yourself go to the gym, all right? But then there are gonna be other days where you're gonna get so sidetracked. Things are gonna come up, things are gonna pop up in your life, right? Maybe it's work, family, something, right? Your car gets a flat tire, things happen, right? That just kind of potentially could easily have you not want to do that. Like, I mean, let's say you get a flat tire. Well, obviously you got to fix it. By the time you fix it and do all of that, maybe you probably wasted 2 hours or whatever, right? You take it to the shop, get a new tire, and blah blah blah, all that stuff. It's easy to get to the point and be like, all right, well, you know, because of this incident, yeah, I can go to the gym, right? Like we could easily have that allow us to divert ourselves from whatever goal we had. Um, But what I tell people though, dude, even if you don't have a lot of time, even your time, maybe you had initially an hour schedule for the day to go to the gym, but because something happened, you only got 15 minutes. Those 15 minutes, dude, is better than zero. Keep that in mind. 15 minutes better than zero. And on top of that, it's more than the time of 15 minutes. Like, are you going to get the best workout you can at 15 minutes? Probably not. But A, you're gonna get something, right? Which is better than nothing. But B, the main thing that matters, the more important aspect of it is you're sticking to what you committed to do, right? That requires discipline. You want to build discipline. Even if you don't have enough time, at least like, hey, I'm gonna do it because I told myself I'm gonna do it. And because I told myself I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna put some action to it to be able to get started. Hold on, give me a second, guys. My bad, guys. My bad. No, I know it was on mute for a while. It just one of my clients called and they want to discuss some integration, new integration project. With so one of the systems that I do integration with is called CargoWise. I'm not sure if y'all ever heard of it or not, but ultimately, um, one of their clients wants to give us orders information from the system called PaceJet. So this is their system. I'm just kind of looking at it. Hey, what's up, man? What's up? Hey Lou, what can be main problem when using Office 365 and Python with SharePoint during the authentication phase? I use username and password. Is this company SharePoint also Novo? Yeah, man, I appreciate it on the vocals, man. I was actually on a call with a client. So because I am, I guess, I am working right now, and because I was on a call, I had to kind of mute my mic, and it just went way longer than expected. But kind of going back to so if I'm understanding correctly, are you having authentication issues connecting to SharePoint? Is that what it is? You're trying to connect to SharePoint, probably. I'm assuming to one of my videos that you saw, which is probably the Office 365 RESTful API package. And if you're trying to connect using credentials, and if you're getting an error, depends what kind of error you're getting, which is number one. But what I have noticed, some of the errors that some users have provided, it's mainly due to two different reasons. One reason is going to be multi-factor authentication. So if the company has multi-factor authentication configured, then yeah, it's not going to work. You cannot use your credentials to connect because of the multi-factor authentication. That kind of prevents you from connecting directly in that manner. If that's not the error message, if it's something else related to what is it called, conditional conditional access, I think that's what it's called, like the error message. What it is, some companies have certain rules configured in their organization. Just kind of giving an example. I'm not sure what your error may be showing, but some of the ones that I have seen that companies place as an example would be, let's say, operating system. They, in the SharePoint admin, not even SharePoint. This is the Office 365, like the Azure portal for Office, SharePoint, Office 365. There's a conditional policies you could apply. And ultimately, the conditional policies is, as an example, only Windows computers could connect to, let's say, SharePoint or like Office 365 services, as an example. Which means if you're at work and let's say you work in the office and you have a desktop at work and it's Windows, works fine. But once you go home, you have a Mac or a Linux and you try to connect to it, you can't no more because some of these policies, and again, I'm just kind of trying to give an example, but some company put policy that says you can only connect to SharePoint when you're within the network. So VPN, for example, within the network, and you got to be using Windows. And if you do that, if you're outside, but let's say you're connected through a VPN, like on your personal computer, like a Mac, but you're connected to the VPN, but you're using a Mac, it's not Windows. Those are some scenarios where you would get a conditional policy error. But I'm not sure if you are getting that kind of error, what that error is, right? Yeah, we'll have to see it. Sadly, I'm unable to copy and paste error. Yes, something about key. Yeah, again, I would have to see what the error is because there's so many different types of errors that you could get. But those are the two that come to me in mind. It's going to be conditional policy, or it's going to be multi-factor authentication. Most likely is going to be one of those two, is my guess, if you're having credential errors. So obviously the workaround becomes, well, how do you work around that? So the the workaround is you would have to create a app in SharePoint that will create a access key, right? And those access keys would will be another method to be able to connect to SharePoint without providing credentials like username and password. You would provide your access keys to connect, and ultimately those access keys would have access to your SharePoint site. Now the problem is Office 365 RESTful API, like that package specifically, does not work with these access keys. I already tried it, had errors with it. I checked out documentation related to this package, and it mentioned that as of right now, it does not work. Like if you were to create a app through SharePoint to give it access to generate access keys, that method would not work with Office 365 API. So that's kind of been my big issue. I've been using Office 365 RESTful API because it's been a real good package to do a lot of things that I've been wanting to do, and it does it pretty easy, very well. But it doesn't do that, and that's an issue because a lot of people, when you, especially if you're trying to write code that you're going to use in your organization, a lot of organizations have multi-factor authentication. A lot of organizations have conditional policies that may block users for doing certain tasks, right? Like running scripts, like accessing the API, not to the browser, but to like the backend to do certain things. And because of that, there is a secondary option as a workaround, but you would have to get with your IT to see if there's even an option, right? One option would be to have IT generate a new user account. Maybe it's called automation at yourcompanydomain.com, right? Whatever but call it, it'll be something like that, automation user account. And ultimately IT will say, hey, this automation user account do not require multi-factor authentication. That's number one. Number two, they could give it policies to allow to work on whatever SharePoint sites you want, right? So instead of giving it access to all the SharePoint sites, they could say, hey, we want this user account to have access to this specific SharePoint. So now, without any conditional policies applied, like saying certain rules that will prevent you from connecting to these resources. And then ultimately, you can now use this account, like username, password, like the way I've been doing on my videos. And that will be a workaround. The only problem with that, though, is I'm not sure if a lot of IT people will be on board with approving that. Some may not. So that's the only issue with that. It could be the case as I only have access to certain parts of the SharePoint. I was able to open Excel file while logged in to the SharePoint and save file as. Main issue is when check in and check out. What about SharePlum? Can I use access key with that? Also, yeah, it is a big corp, so they are a bit. SharePlum, I don't know, man. Honestly, I need to check. I used SharePlum back in the days. I haven't used it in a while. I think the last time I used SharePlum was probably like 2 years ago. And the only problem I have, here's the thing, SharePlum may work, so I need to look into that. Only one of the main reasons why I kind of stopped using SharePlum, it really hasn't been maintained as Office 365 RESTful API. But it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. I think it may still make the job done for what you're trying to do. I just need to see if it allows for the access keys. And if it does, then that would probably be the way to do it using SharePlum. So I need to look into that. I don't have an answer for that directly. I would have to do some testing to confirm that if that works. But again, like I'm taking a look right now, SharePlum. I'm wondering when was the last time they got it was last maintained. So, like for example, if I go to the website, damn it, that's not what I wanted. Last maintained was 2020, their latest release, and this is a problem. This is one of the reasons why I kind of stopped using it, because it's been 3 years since it's been maintained. Again, I'm not saying that it won't work, because I know the last time I used it was maybe about a year and a half ago or so, and it worked. But I always have concerns when I use packages that are not being maintained. The only way this would be okay if SharePoint had not had any major changes, obviously, right? Major changes to authentication or major changes in their API. As long as that's the case, then ultimately, yeah, this shouldn't be a problem. But I would have to do some testing to see if this works, because I'm not 100% sure if this would work or not. I was trying to get it to work again with the Office 365 API. So let's see, Office, there, this one right here. And this one is being maintained, as you could tell, right? Of this year, February. So that's about what, a month and a half ago. So that's what I like about this one, and there's a lot of features about it that work very well. It sucks when it comes to the access key. That as of right now, it doesn't work, and I'm not sure why. I may need to look into it. Maybe I need to contribute to it so we could get it to work, but just haven't had time to do that either. Um, let's see. Yeah, man. But I'll take a look at it, man. I'll see if SharePlum may have some, may work, and if it does, try it out. So let's just take a look at their authentication real quick. All right, let me check something. Have somebody from my team send me messages real quick on Microsoft Teams. Okay. Yeah, not sure what's going on here. As somebody from my team, they're working on something. I think they figured it out, but I'm not sure. No, they did not. Let's see. Yeah, seems valid. Never mind. All right, it is what it is. I'm not gonna worry about it. Okay. Also, I think you are the only guy who talks about SharePoint automation. So many things. No problem, man. I do deal a lot with SharePoint. I don't see that many videos, I feel like, related to Microsoft, like integrating like Python and Microsoft services anyways. So that's kind of one of the reasons why I, made videos. But ultimately, what were the main reason why I started to make videos was because I actually had a need for it. I had projects where I needed to integrate with SharePoint and do certain things, and ultimately, I realized that there's a lot of other people that are trying to do the same thing as well. So right, started kind of to build off of that. I'm looking at SharePlump real quick. Okay, Let's look at their. Trying to see where their authentication is. So they have the username and password. Get security token. Grab a security token to authenticate to Office 365. Again, username, password. Get cookies. Grab the cookies from your Office SharePoint site and use it as authentication for the. I need to test this out. So maybe this could be an option. Well, again, this will not work from a. We're trying to schedule it either. So it seems like it's probably able to get the cookies to be able to access the site, but again, that only works if you're logged in. Would be my guess on that same computer to Office 365. If you're like trying to push your code out to, I don't know, let's say AWS Lambda or something, then obviously that would not work. I tried SharePlan with password or username, and as with Office, there was issues with credentials, which are correct. As I said, I believe there's a need for that community. Yeah, no, man, totally agree, for sure. I'll see what I could find when it comes to because there is another way to do it as well. I saw another package. I mean, so let me put it this way: the other option could be start building my own SharePoint package, right? I started reviewing a little bit over the SharePoint API. So ultimately a lot of the packages, what they're doing, they're using the SharePoint API. Because there's documentation that you can find on Microsoft that kind of shows you the how to communicate with SharePoint, different, whether it be lists, documents, check in, check out, things of that nature, right? So that's kind of what a lot of the packages are. They're using that API. For some reason, though, I'm not sure why Office 365 RESTful API package doesn't allow for access keys. Let me rephrase it. I want to say, based on what I was reading, I think it does, but it does only when, I don't know if it's on-prem maybe or something. I can't remember, but maybe it's not on-prem. There was some exception, right? Some scenario where it did work, but in general, it does not work. And yeah, it's kind of odd. But there is another package that I saw the other day. I looked into it a little bit. I never digged into it more than what I should have. So I think it's this one, the SharePoint. Man, never mind. Nope, it's not this one. This one has not been updated for a while. So that's not it. I know the two main ones. SharePlan was one of the popular ones, but now it's. Damn, my videos show up all over the place related to Python SharePoint. I just realized that. I didn't realize that I was coming up like that in the searches. No, see, this is the same package that I'm using right here, and that's the one that, again, had issues with. So see how even right here, client credentials, we have your client ID and your secret, right? I don't know if they talk about it on here or not, but there is an issue with it, man. Because they even mention it on their GitHub account about how it doesn't work. Let me see what, again, maybe it's been fixed or who knows, but GitHub. There it goes. This is it. So if I go to, I think it was under examples. Let's take a look at SharePoint. Let's take a look at connecting with what was it? Not certain. No, with app. That's what it was. I think this one is it or no? So we have ID. Important for application authenticating against Azure AD Blade, call SharePoint V1 API. Using client credential flow, app only access will return 401 error, and this is the error that I was getting as well, meaning this flow is not supported unless AAD app is explicitly granted access via ACS, as explained here. Client certification flow is utilized instead, as explained here. I'll refer, for instance, this thread in more detail. So I need to read on probably a little bit more, see if there's something I could do to configure it on my side. I'm trying to think if the issue that I had is maybe like all of this is pretty straightforward to kind of configure, get your app set up, ultimately trusted, and then ultimately from there you connect to it. Now the way they're connecting to it obviously is directly through just the URL, right? So the URL side and authenticating and so forth. But SharePoint app only is the older but still very relevant model of setting up app principal. This model works for both SharePoint Online and SharePoint on-prem. Let's see, Azure Access Control, a service of Azure Directory, has been retired as of November 18th. This retirement does not impact the SharePoint add-in model, blah, blah, blah. For more information, for new tenants apps using the AC apps only access token is disabled by default. We recommend using the Azure AD app only model, which is modern and more secure, but you can change the behavior by running setting up app only principal with tenant permission. And again, I didn't have issues with this. All of that was fine. Again, it's been a while. I need to go back through it. I know I had some issues with it though. This was some months back, and then and obviously they did notate some of these issues as well with the 401 error. Let's see. I was using PY132 to work with SharePoint Excel files, but you can't check out and check in them back into server. Yeah, you're top even in EU. Damn, even the EU. Interesting. Wasn't aware of that. Are you from the EU, I guess? Man, I guess you may be right, man. There's not many people creating Python / SharePoint content for whatever reason. Okay. I'm going to do some testing on this. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do some testing. It's been a while. I think the last time I tested this out was a couple of months back. So I'm going to do some retesting to see what error message I'm getting, see if I need to configure something in my Azure portal, what do I need to configure to see if that opens up the ability for my client ID and client secret to work and all of that. And then we'll see if that works. If that doesn't work, then I'll dig into, because there are other options, right? And I have not tried these other options, but I have tried these options before in other stuff, like other systems. Like, for example, another option would be client certificate private key, right? So ideally, this is where you would have a public and private key PEM. So you would have to get that created. Normally, what you do, you save the other version in Azure portal. You upload your certification, your key there. And then now you would need this key in order to connect. And ultimately, that's how you're able to establish a connection, right? Think of it, you got your public key and your private key, and you upload, I believe, your private key to Azure portal, and then your public key what you will need to utilize every time in your script to be able to connect to the API. And as long as the key is valid, then it'll allow you to connect, and then you'll be able to have access to do whatever you want, right? In this case, it will be the private key and all of this stuff. So I have done work before on other systems where this needed to be done. So this, I'm somewhat familiar with, but I just haven't tried it. And I probably should have tried it as well. But I prefer the other option. The other option, I think for me, it's a bit easier to go ahead and set up, get your client ID, your client secret, because the process is actually pretty simple. It's not hard to do. It just, I believe there's some other setup that needs to be done, probably on the Azure portal side, admin side, in order for it to work. So I need to kind of walk through that process again and see if that's the case, and hopefully get that to work. If not, then I'll probably go back to this process here, test this out, and if this works, I'll make a video related to this at the minimum, on how to create your private keys and public keys and all of that. After you create it, walk through the steps of publishing them in Azure admin portal, and then ultimately using them in your script, and that will be at least another option. All right. So, okay, man, I'm gonna look into it, man. I'm gonna be actually tonight. I have a few days throughout the week where I do kind of like my research over certain videos, right? Like people ask for requests for videos to do whatever they want. So I do schedule some time in the evening to kind of do my research and findings. And so I'm going to put this on the list and do some research on it and see what I could figure out. So hopefully I could figure out an answer sometime this week. And if I can, I'll make a video. And then hopefully that should be able to solve your issue when it comes to authentication anyways. I believe everything else should work fine. It just really the authentication piece, man. Once you get the authentication piece works, I think everything else would be as is. And hopefully it should be good. I may need to ask for that my tech lead, and he will need to contact higher ups, as none of us would be authorized for that. The keys, yeah. And you're right. It would require like again, the easiest option would be to generate client ID and client secret. Because I want to say you may have access to do that. Worst case scenario, if you don't have access to do that, somebody who does, they could at least walk through the process, generate it real quick, and then give you the keys. But I think as long as you have access to the SharePoint, you may have access to that. Maybe, right? Again, I'm not 100% sure, but that's a maybe. But if it does require more authorization to access that page, which is to let you know what I'm talking about, it is this page here, right? This section here. So again, maybe you do need admin because it is the SharePoint Admin Center. This is where you would look up. So the step here is where you would create your app ID, right? You go through the process, you generate ID, secret ID, and put your other information. And as you hit submit, it's going to generate a app ID for you. And then it's going to take you to this page. When you're in this page, you can look up that app ID, and I believe it will populate some of this information for you automatically. And then this is where you will have to submit your permissions. As you submit your permissions to give you access to the SharePoint tenant, then now that these keys would give you access to communicate with SharePoint, right? To create files, download files, modify, do all that stuff. So again, you gotta trust it, and then you'll be able to use it, right? But I think you're right. Where all of my testing, obviously, I'm an admin for my SharePoint, but I think you're gonna need somebody with access that has admin access that's willing to go through this step for you. If you don't have somebody that's willing to do these steps for you, then yeah, man, I think that's gonna be an issue. So that's just something to keep in mind. You are going to most likely need somebody that has access to these pages to be able to walk through the process and to create a new app ID with these secret client IDs and client secrets. And then, so you'll be able to access it pretty much. You should look into PY132 tutorial. That documentation is quite bad. Many thanks again, Lou. I bet quite a few people would be thankful for that. Yeah, I have no access to that part. I haven't tried. So I have used PY32 for other stuff, but I never used it for SharePoint access. So I'll take a look into that, man. See what I can find in that, because it sounds like you're able to connect to it using that. So it doesn't require additional access, right? Or anything like your credentials, I'm assuming, work, or just running it on the PC that you're at works. So if that's the case, then yeah, I mean, I think the only issue you say you had was the check-in and check-out process, right? That it doesn't capture those aspects of it. Just kind of curious, are you downloading files and then doing modifying or doing things to it and then checking them back in? Is that kind of what your ultimate goal is, I guess, in this case? To check out a file, download it, maybe you modify it and then you save it, check it back in, then upload it, I guess, check back in. I'll take a look at PY32 and see what I could find related to that. Again, I never use it for SharePoint, but yeah, while connected to SharePoint through browser. Okay, so you're accessing through the browser, then gotcha. So that means you're really you're probably not checking out files. You're just opening up the files, and it opens up locally, which means it's still connected to your SharePoint. But you want to be able to check it out, open it up locally, and then as you save, it'll automatically save to SharePoint, then check it back in. That's what it seems like you're kind of doing. All right, I'll take a look at it, man. I'll see what I can find on that piece. And then if I'm able to find some stuff, I'll get back to you and make a video. All right, man. Well, I think that's it for this live stream. Again, guys, I'm going to be on every day, Monday through Friday, around this time. So I'm Central Time because I'm in Texas, the U.S. piece in Texas. So I'm Central, but Monday through Friday for the whole month of April. Something new that I'm doing. I'm going to be streaming every day, Monday through Friday through the month of April. Again, I'm going to be sharing stuff that I'm working with. I'm going to try to answer some of the questions that y'all have. So if I'm able to give some some input, some feedback. Hopefully it helps out. But yeah, guys, I will be streaming every day for the months of April, Monday through Friday. I'll be able to do it only manually. Check in and check out. Thanks, man. All right, man. Cool. Again, I'll let you know what I find. Again, guys, man, appreciate it for watching stream. I'll be on tomorrow again. And talk to y'all guys later.